I'm still here on the project, building capacity around my mouth, but I got something to back it up. What do you think? Let's discuss it. This is SAMSON Tone, Liberian Public Radio. It's Friday, so why not? But I want to bring your attention to a show that I'm going to be having tonight. It's going to be very interesting. I'm encouraging all of you, those of you that are listening to this video, to tune in tonight, because perhaps this might be some of the reason why we have all of the mess that is going on in our own country, because you have to listen to these things. These things, the trouble we've been having in Liberia didn't start overnight. These are things that's been happening from time to time. There are those who came before us, past generation, failed to recognize these things, and will continue to repeat them, and because we ourselves have not yet able to recognize and see if these things can be rectified, so that this country, beautiful country of ours, can be built just by our hands as Liberian. It doesn't matter who you are at this point. Concord country, it doesn't even exist anymore. We're all one another. We're all one country, one people. But if we do not understand why these things are happening to us, we're most likely not going to be able to find solution. So I ask you tonight to join me.
Yet, how does one begin to help people who swim on their own flooded streets to voting booths to vote incompetent criminals back into office?
Yes, that is a big question we all have to answer. How do you help people who will go to the voting booth swimming in their own flooded streets just to vote people in offices who are incompetent? And those incompetent people that are being voted in offices will also appoint people who are also incompetent. So this is like a big deal. How do we help our brothers and sisters to make sure that their voting rights are utilized effectively? They have the voting cards. They must be told how important their voting cards are to all of us. And so I'm saying, those of us that have this platform, this is not time for hate. You don't come into this because you hate. You must do all you can to educate the voters themselves, how important their voting cards are. Because if their vote our leaders will be able to do what is right for our people. Join me this evening as I try to explore this particular question and many more that will be coming. Join me this evening at 8 Eastern Time, 5 Pacific, where we will take on this question and be able to see how much we can go. With your help, we, the Liberian people, will be able to educate our brothers and sisters that have the right to vote whoever they want, but they must do so with responsibility. This is Samson Toll, Liberian Public Radio. Thank you very much.
C'est au Tizouema, encore une autre fidèle qui l'Amérique n'a pas loupé. Quand il y a Sylvie, il y a quoi qui j'ai loupé presse. L'Amérique n'a pas loupé. T'as mon bien de moi avec moi, nous deux. En somme, on va battre au moins, néo. Mon temps dit, t'as mon mounier. On s'est battu, frère, moi, il pleure. Tout là, loupé, yo.
Doing anything that people get to amend it. And with me from 2005 to date, we're all doing anything. I've done something. Trust me. I'll be re-elected. You understand? So you don't need to fight. You don't need to destroy your country. You don't need to even condemn your country. You have to be inspired, peacefully, and then convince the people, persuade people. Politics is about persuasion. And it's about what you have done for your people. I have done so much that I don't need pay for. You know why I don't need pay for? Because Liberians love me and they promoted me when I was on a soccer page. You understand? And they were proud to be Liberian when I was on the soccer page. And I've done my best for my country. I'm a former peace ambassador. It doesn't matter what people say. I'm on record.
Yao, abela lokeyo, mi vito jogbai, mi vito nyomba, martis mo peyo. Manager Gigi, ouais peut jamais forcer ou, si tu connais, tu connais. L'animateur Choco Noska Yassen de Toyebi, l'homme a tout fait pour mi vito, Aniche le vieux.
Henry, I can tell you the problem of this country with respect to prices, with respect to health, with respect to education, and largely tied to roads. There are no roads. You don't see opportunities where they should be when you don't have roads. From up to 173 years, we only have one road. How do you know what is happening in Bapolu when you don't have roads? You don't go there. The prices of goods, commodities on the market are high because to get them to where they are needed. So there's no way you can, when I talk about road, I'm not talking about 14 road on the sidewalk in Monrovia, $50,000 road and make it $3 million. We're talking about roads that will open up the country. We're talking about roads that will open up opportunities, roads that will get businesses going, and dependency reduced because people believe their goods and commodities can get to the market. That's what we're talking about.
But we'll prosecute and will confiscate assets that people steal and acquire by illicit means. I often say that in Liberia, when people get caught, they send their wife, they send their children, they send their relatives, whatever, to come and beg. I'm saying the Liberian people, don't come and beg. You know, don't come and tell me, oh, stand to help you get elected. He talked nice about you on the radio station. Now he's stealing, so forgive him. Stanley should have known when he was stealing that we're going to punish him. So there's going to be consequences. That's the first thing. Then we have to make sure we're paying people a living wage. So we did the arithmetic, we did the math in 2017 that when you look at policeman's salary or healthcare worker's salary or teacher's salary, by the middle of the month, the money finished. By the time they pay rent, they buy food, they pay the children tuition, and of course, they're not going to starve, right? So the policeman will pull you over, the teacher will accept bribe, they change grades.
I'm not too sure if I'm audible, but I hope. Good evening. Good evening. Thank you. Thank you very much for joining us this evening again. I'm not too sure why is it. Okay. Here we go. Thank you. Thank you for joining us. Safety, Lord Jesus. We want to thank you again this evening for bringing you back here again. We say thank you for your mercy. Thank you for your mercy, protection, my Lord. Because of your protection, we are here. Because of your mercy, we are here. And we want to thank you. My Lord, as we said here again tonight, we ask you to bless the country, the Republic of Liberia. Bless the leaders of the Republic of Liberia. Give them wisdom to do what is good for our people. Bless the host country, the United States of America. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. Let's get going. Okay. Now, tonight's program is going to be all over this place, which is okay. I'm going to be discussing role, but not specifically in detail like I usually will be doing. But tonight we will just go ahead and talk role, but in terms of how does it affect the Liberians. And we're not going to be showing a lot of pictures here tonight. We're not even going to show picture. We're just going to do a conversation with you. And we hope that when we put the number, you'll be willing to participate with us. So tonight's program, as I stated, is about role. Those of you that have been to Liberia lately, you've seen the mess that is Ralphie Highway has caused and it continue to cost. If you don't understand the road construction process, even if you're not a construction person and not an engineer, you will understand that it's a mess because nobody would do stuff like that. Okay, and so when we were in Liberia, we were able to view the way that people were doing this road business, specifically Ralphie Highway. As an engineer, it was a nightmare for me to watch. Truthfully, it was a nightmare for me to watch because I just don't see why would anybody put.
What's your name again? You say
such a road construction process in the country. If you were to actually sing gentlemen, ladies and gentlemen that are responsible for the role, if you were to ask them to do the same thing in their own country, they won't do it. They just will not do it because it's not permitted. Since I've been back, I've done my research. I've gone all over to see what type of road that you will construct, and you start digging both sides of the road. Not that it cannot be done, but most of the application of that process, digging both sides of the road, is usually driveway. It's usually a road that lead to private houses, not the major highway like that. And I thought that I gave you some little understanding tonight about the road process itself. Now, people say, "Oh, we're going to build road. We're going to build road." First thing is, you want to know what the purpose is. What's the reason of building the road? You build road according to the road people, the boat people definition. I keep saying it. There are three major aspects, three fundamental major aspects of road building and design and construction. Number one, as a designer, you want to make sure that your road that you're going to design is buildable, and most importantly, that is safe. Because it's so, so demoralized for the designer. It demoralizes your intellect if somebody were to die on your road, the road that you design. And you start asking yourself, what happened? What did I do? Because here's the thing you need to know. The road that you drive on, the speed limit, the designer come up with a speed limit based on certain criteria, of course. So do you decide what kinds of speed you want to put on that road? The road you're driving on, what type of structure, section, pavement you want to use, and for why? What reason do you want to use that specific? Well, let's be a rigid, which is concrete, or be a flexible, which is asphalt or quarter. What will be your reason? Why do you want to use that? And let's go back to the purpose of the road. And I tell you, by next week, I'm working on something. By next week, I will do a little demonstration of how the road design process work, and then we'll turn it over to construction. Okay? So there are so many people involved in the design process of the road. It's not just 1 minute you go and promise, like the politician in Liberia or all over the world, politicians all over the world, oh, they go to a community, you guys need a road? I'll build a road. No, it just doesn't work like that. It just doesn't work like that. You have to make sure that the purpose is very important. The purpose of the road is very, very important. And who going to utilize it, the facility that you're going to put out? Who's going to utilize the facility? What type? What are the equipment, vehicles, or whatever it is that are going to utilize that facility that you intend to put down? Is it a facility that are going to be used strictly for pedestrian walking? Is it a facility you're going to put down strictly for motorbike, bicycle? Is it a facility that you're going to put down strictly for trucks? Is it a facility you want to put down strictly for cars? Or are they all 4-in-1, what they could now call complete design? So those of you that are coming and those of you that are engineer and getting ready to go for interview, this is a very, very important question. Most likely will come during the interview. It's called complete design. Complete street design. They call it in a city, they call it complete street design. And when you say complete, that means everybody going to utilize the facility that you're putting down. And if you intend for everyone, the pedestrian, the trucks, the motorcyclists, the bicyclists, if all including I told you pedestrian already. If everyone going to be using that facility, you have to take into consideration each of those user of your facility, and they specify in the design criteria what you need. How do you provide for that? Because you don't want people walking and they get hit by a car out of a sudden. You don't want people jaywalking. You don't want people just motorbike like they do in Monrovia. That's not what the road purpose is. And when you design your road correctly, you are in control. Even if you're not on the road itself. But the fact that you design, when you've after the safety aspect is already resolved, the next thing is the comfort of those who are going to utilize the facility. So what are some of the things that will make the driver to be comfortable driving on your road? Number one, the curve. Whether it be a horizontal curve or vertical curve. Horizontal curve is the curve, you go straight like that, then you turn. The horizontal curve. Vertical curve is the one you climb the hill and go down the hill. The vertical curve. The person who's driving the road and making that curve, turning in a horizontal curve, does that person have a sight ahead of him that he can see any danger or car parking in the corner that he can't just get up and oh my goodness, this car. He should be able to start seeing the car setting distance away to prepare himself should in case he needs to stop. All of those things must come to play in your design process. And there are criteria that is set for that. And as a designer, you must understand all of the process that are involved in building a road. Another thing, after the safety of the utilizer, after the comfort of the driver and what have you. And let me go a little bit into the comfort about the comfort of a driver. Say, for example, you've seen some of these roads. You drive on it and you set your speed, you go, and the car goes up, and it's like hanging in your heart. Go, and even when my kids, Samson and Nelson, when they was young, they have a road in Canton, bad road. But I used to take them in my limousine. It was the truck. Well, it's a van, 12-seater van, no, 16-seater van, 12 or whatever, but it was a big one. And I bought it for $400 from my company. My company used to use it for survey, so I needed a car to take me to school, work in school. So I bought the van. I used to fix it. So I bought it. They said it wasn't good. I said fine. I fixed it up. The engine, it has a serious shift differential problem. I went to Johnny. I got another one. Put it on. I'm a mechanic. What do you want? But anyway, so I used to put Samson and Nelson in a car and go over this hill. When I climb, I speed up, boom, and then when I come in here, the car will be hanging like that just for a few seconds. And then Samson says, "Dad, do it again." They don't even talk to me anymore though, because they're all grown. When I say hello, hey, what's up, Dad? What's happening? What's up? Can I help you? That's it. If I were to tell them right now, you don't go back in my car, let me put Samson and say, "Dad, are you crazy? I should follow you now." What's that going to, what purpose would it serve? But these are the kids that they love me. They love me doing that, going up the hill. But the point here is, besides me bringing pleasure and happiness to my kids doing that, which was unsafe, by the way, but I was young and my mind was not as good as it is now. I used to drive rough too, but I was young. So I give it to you guys. So thank God for many of you who are young and are smart. Not like me when I was young, I was dumb. But many of you, that young people now, are very smart. You're not going to do this kind of stupid stuff, knowing exactly. You see, this is what I like about these young Liberians. They have goals set at a very early age. They know exactly what they want. Then only a few you will find getting in trouble and stuff like that. But many of the young people, they know exactly what they want. As soon as they step forward in the country, they know exactly what they want, how to go about it. And as a result, after 10 years, enjoyment a day, yo a day, nyama nyama a day, because they have already built up the structure. The foundation is built by these young people. They were not like me. At that time, he was here. But anyway, that's besides the point. But so when you come up, going uphill, there's a design criteria that is set. It calls sight distance as well. Not only do you have a horizontal sight distance, but you also have vertical sight distance, where it says that when you're driving and going up the hill, you should be able to see a quarter laying on the floor. They give you 13 feet. I don't want to quote that right now because my mind is not quite correct on that. Okay. But I believe it's something like 150 or 200 feet that you should be able to, when you're driving, your eyeball should hit that quarter laying out there ahead of you. And another thing they tell you, when you're driving at night, your headlight should not hit the bottom. When you're going downhill, your headlight should not hit the bottom of the hill. It should always be even up with the car itself. That's the sight distance. Okay, so all of these criteria are all set in the driving business. I mean, in the road design business. So let's go on. So when you're done with the comfort of the driver, then the next thing is in the safety aspect of that. What is involved in the safety aspect? The road that you drive on. When the contractor here in the United States, I don't know about Liberia, but here in the United States, when the contractor is done, especially if it's concrete, because I've seen it so many times, they take this tester. It's a little, when you are in a country, you know that when you use a rado wheel with it, you got a bamboo and you put a nail in it, you rack and you run it, just like that, but a little bit of compact. So what they do is they have it behind a van, okay? So they measure maybe 10 feet or so, and they put oil on the brush. They use the brush. Serious problem. Oil. Oil. I don't know what that red oil. I don't even go in there. I just say oil. So they put the oil down for the weight of that little tester. And then they wind it, just like, you know when you were small, you used to wind that stuff, you put a car and take off. Same thing. They wind it. And then it has a rope that the van ahead will wind that as they come to the van. When they get there, it stops. But here's the thing they're doing. They're testing the skate process. The skate process of the material that is on the floor, the roadway. How much skate can it take? If somebody stepped their brakes, but for them to do it, they put oil down. And oil and skating don't mix. So they put that and wind it. And then behind the car, they let it go. And you can actually see the smoke of that tires. And based on the reporting that is coming out of that computer, will tell you, first thing will tell you the capacity in terms of stopping and what have you on this vehicle. I mean, on this facility. Based on that, if you're going downhill, watch again next time. When you're going downhill, they got some of the sign. They say when it's snowing, you see they have a car going like that. All comes out of that testing process. What can we do that back home? We have the knowledge, but we don't do those things. All we care for is kickback. And the kickback thing here, I have to be very, very careful because they are setting, well, I'm not even going to touch that. I'll just leave it as that. It's not helpful for us. You might be rich right now for yourself individually. You might get kickback and be satisfied. But what happened to your brothers and sisters? They're going to be driving on the same road that is not safe because of the kickback. So let me go on. So after the test is done, then they're going to rate that area. Then they move on. Another thing they have is a little vehicle. Again, when you're from the countryside, I don't know about your Maria boys. I say when you're from the countryside, you know the bamboo you make. My goodness, I can't think about that. I've been doing the engineering business for a very long time. I used to make a bamboo with wheel. And then you push it on the side. Of course, you're not going to sit out. There's some people who will make this bamboo truck and actually sit in it and let people push them downhill. I've been one of them, but my own, I usually use it and stay on the side and go all day. I just ride my bamboo car. I have the wheel. It has a bike wheel, and it's just there. Nobody can sit in it. They sound the engine from my mouth all day. But anyway, these people, same process. You have this guy. After they finish building, they want to know, and sometimes watch and see when you're driving on these roads, sometimes you'll see some spot, maybe about 100 or 100 and 200 feet. They go because why? They fail to bring in the pagraphier. And the pagraphier comes in and smooth the area. First of all, it has a measuring as they riding this thing. They're not sitting there, somebody pushing it. And they ride, and then it tells the scanner go up and down to know what road has a creek in it and things like that. And based on that, they come back with machine to grind the asphalt. I mean the concrete to make it smooth. Usually it's the concrete will have issues like that because asphalt, they're hot when they put it down. So you're not going to have that kinds of stuff because you have a rotor. And the rotor go back and forth and make until the creek in that asphalt is completely out. So they do that. But I'll talk about asphalt later on. So let's go on. So when they finish that, before they turn the road over to the owner, they do all of those things. Then the owner will look at the list because the designer have already told the owner what are some of the things to expect. And the contractor and the designer, the person who is representing the owner, they call it resident engineer. The person representing the owner to be out there to make sure the contractor is building this thing based on the design criteria that is set, based on the actual paperwork, how the road's supposed to be built based on the design. And the RE, the resident engineer, sits there and tell the contractor, this line goes there, from here to there, this is what it has. And I'll go back into the design a little bit, but let me just give you the details. So when that is done, when that is long, okay, the speed limit, yeah, of a road as well. Okay, I will talk about that. I will talk about that. But anyway, so when that is done, okay, when that is done, when they finish all that, then the contractor, before he gets paid now, he goes to the RE, the resident engineer, and say, here are the material that I have used. And here is so far, this is what we have done. And this is the result. The RE then, because he also, not just in the office, but he goes out and inspects the area, but he has inspectors. So the inspectors bring that report in because they're the eyes for the RE to make sure that these things are done properly. And the inspector themselves, they are designers. They know about design. So they come and bring the report. The RE look at the report. So, there's a problem here. From this station to this station, you didn't do X, Y, and Z. Why? The contractor come and explain. RE said, no, I'm not certified. Take it out. Redo that area. If he doesn't do it, he doesn't get paid. The contractor will start cussing. Maybe if you're not careful, you'll start cussing your mom. But who cares? You didn't have mom cause that only from Liberia. I beg you, plenty here. Plenty. When you go to construction, they have what they call construction language. That's also causing mom language. Because he's so upset. But here's the issue. I myself have been involved in similar situations. Tell the contractor, don't do it that way. That's not what they say. Oh, don't listen to me. You're so green. What do you know? I said, okay, take it out. Yeah, I'm not gonna. I said, okay. I made my report. The RE said you're not gonna get paid. Then the person get mad. They come back and dig it up again and redo it until moi satisfaction. And I'm not doing it as a spite to the contractor, but I'm doing it because the responsibility is on me. That if this thing is not done properly, we might have issue. And let me show you, let me give you one example. Many of you that lives in the big city, the city itself has some serious problems. Most of the time, if you go to a stop sign, you will see the asphalt start piling up. Right before you go across, because when you step your brake, the asphalt can't follow you. Why? You know why? They call taco. The oil base, before they come and put the asphalt in, they have to put the asphalt. And I'll show you all of those things sooner. I will show you all of those things that I'm talking about here tonight. So the taco is the one that's buying the asphalt to the base. The taco is just like an oil. It's an oil-based product, but it has some sort of a chemical binding power. So when they put it down, now you don't come and say, "Oh, that total man, you waste that thing, man." You don't do that. Out. It has specific application calculation that you do to give you specific application. It has nozzle. Those of you who in engineering or fluid mechanic, you see the nozzle, how the nozzles work. When you do your work, you do fluid mechanic well, it tells you what is the flow, it tells you the pressure of the flow, everything. That applies to this particular process. Okay? So when you come and apply the oil-based product, they call taco, when you put it in correctly, the temperature has to be correct. You can't put it inside when it's raining. You can't put it inside when it's 500 degrees outside either. The products, they have products information. They tell you the application process. They tell you the temperature. They tell you how and when. You follow those things, you're fine. Why you think the road, the highway that have asphalt, why you think asphalt not following behind the car? Why is it staying there? Because they apply those in the city. However, most of these cities, however, they tend to lack their application process. And so when you see not all of the intersection, but most of the time you see when you're driving, there's a hum of asphalt like this, crumb, and you got your car go blue, blue. And when they're ready to do repair, that the first place they start from there. Because there's no complete binding process between the asphalt and the base. If you have it, the asphalt is not going anywhere. Okay? So all of those things have to be checked. You check those things, they're correct, the contractor get paid for the quantity. Okay, let's move on. Somebody want me to talk about speed limit. This speed limit issue is like this. They do testing. ASTM will go and do the testing on the cars and how much speed in terms of pollution and everything else. Then they come back to the designer and they give you a bunch of speed limits application. But mainly, the speed limit depends on the area, the rural area where you don't have people crossing the street. The speed limit is what, 75? when you come closer to the city where the pedestrian might be involved, the speed limit drop to what? 45, 35, 25 in the school zone. So it depends on the area that the designer feel the speed is needed in this area. Now, let's take it back on the road. Most of the 45, most of the speed in a long stretch of road, straight road, it says 75. But when you see some deep curve, don't they say reduce speed? Because the speed of that curve depends on the radius of the curve. Ah, Samson told you ready again tonight. Yeah, but begin again. Enjoy you now. Yeah, you will. Yeah. Sometimes when I do these things, I feel sad that you know, your mom and dad are not around to watch these kind of things when you do them. But I enjoy myself sometimes, to be honest with you. And that's why when I say, because these things I have to read. I have to read. I can't just, this thing don't come because I'm sitting down eating kasali. I have to read. But when I'm reading, I want to understand, because I'm from Totan. I don't know English. I can't read well. So I read. Then I say, okay, well, what it mean? Then I take that English, I put it in crown dollar. Then I stay not 75. Oh, well, how I need to understand it, then I go and put it in one place with dollar. Now, once I get in one place with dollar, I know it now. I'm not stopping again. No, but on a very serious note. So anyhow, the curve, listen to this though, and I want you to think about it. Many of you that are in school doing engineering, what have you, think about it. The curve is a radius, okay? And it's a circle. Curve is a circle. Because if you take that curve and continue with that radius, you will come back and meet it. It's a circle. So here's the interesting thing about that curve. Okay, not all, but most of the curve, and I will tell you what it do. So the curve basically comes about when you take rock and put it on a rope and turn it over your head, and it get to a specific area, and you let go, that rock will go straight, and that part until after, yeah, it's gonna go somewhere, but immediately leaving you maybe 10, 15 feet, it will go straight where it started leaving. That projection will go straight until the wind and the speed drop, everything else. Other than that, it's gonna go. So what they say in the design book is, okay, we have they call it centrifugal for fold anyway, by the way. So they say, okay, how do we stop these vehicles that we're gonna put curve here? The vehicle going 15, 20, 30, 40 miles an hour. And out of a sudden, you want him to go like that. So what happened to the centrifugal force now? It's going to go. So what do? They come up with what they call what? When you're driving, okay, you have a road like that. The straight road is 2%. In Liberia, they got 2.5. And I will tell you those slope later. The 2%. Okay, it's this. You go 2% this way, 2% that way. And I will explain the percentage on another show. Just stay with me. Okay. So when you take your road, when you're driving on the straight road, the other car coming that 2% going that way, you going that 2% going this way. They got what they call medium. Okay, they have a medium. And the medium is 2%, but they have what they call super elevation. So here's the interesting thing. You have to understand super elevation in order for you to So when you're driving, for example, you take off ramp. The off ramp, when you're going like this side lifting up. Because why? Because when it's a curve now, it's a radius. So they don't want you to fall out. So they lift this side also, you will stay in there. Oh my goodness, but anyway, no, on a very serious note. So they have super elevation. Now the super elevation itself is a very complex design process. There's no question asked. Just they're telling you, okay, a roadway itself. Let me explain the roadway to you now. The road that go like this. So from the center line, okay, the center, which is the ridge of the road now, from there to 12 feet. 12 feet. From the center to the other one is 12 feet. One lane, 12 feet. A meter is 3.6, but I'll deal with two. I don't know meter that well. And when I went to Liberia, we were doing some stuff, and kilometers, I was confused. But I'm an engineer, I can convert. So anyhow, from the center to the what they call, if it's only one lane coming, then you have the center line. Then from the center, you go to ETW, end of travel way or edge of travel way. Then from the edge of travel way, then you have shoulder. Now the shoulder is a different slope, 5%. They do that so that the 5%, they don't want you to think, say, oh, it's still the same street. No, when you're driving on 5%, you know you're going like this. You'll be very, very careful. Whereas if you're driving on 2%, you just drive. You won't even notice it. Now that I've saying these things, many of you, when you're driving now, those of you that are educated and like to educate yourself and like to challenge, when you're driving and you start thinking twice, oh, okay, maybe this is a 2%, but you will notice it. So anyway, so when you go to off-ramp, you start at 2%. Then this shoulder here, the end of this shoulder, it starts lifting up. 2%, it goes up. It goes up. It goes up. It goes up. And then when it's going up, when it's coming here from the zero, it's negative 2%, negative 2%. Because this is zero. You're going down, is negative. So when you start lifting up, it come back to, first it goes from negative 2, negative 1, negative 0.5, negative 0.275, 0. So it's on 0. It's even up with your center line now. So it's straight. This part is remain because they want not moving. The other say their total empire is stay. So they want stay. And this one lift up. So it goes up. As you get before you get to the center radius, you reach the highest support. Now, most of the support on many of these roads, they both ice you to go 12, but you don't do 12. 12% you got to claim, almost like a claiming. You know, have you seen Speedway? Those people that can be running around the track. If you see their support, you can't claim it from the bottom to go up. You can't claim it unless they put rope on you. It's steep. So but most of them, it's like 6% maximum. So when you reach your 6 high super, then start going back down until you get back to your 2%. That is the super elevation, my way of telling you. Okay. So that's the super. That's the super. Okay. So after the super and the super, now mind you, there's so many things involved here. And I neglect to mention one of the most important things as you do the design is called alignment. Alignment is the one that controls all of your design. But they have two types of alignment: vertical alignment and horizontal alignment. Vertical alignment is up and down, and horizontal alignment is the side. So I just want to mention that. But let's go on. So when you're done with your super elevation, then the next thing, okay, I want to cut cross section. You have a bread, you know, the French bread, okay, the long bread. When you cut it and you turn it inside to you, all of the ingredients in how the bread were constructed in the baking stuff, everything, you will see it. The whole you will see it. So you cut the roll. In the middle of the roll, you cut it. And you turn it to you. You cut that whole roll and turn it outside and look at it. And inside that roll, you will see your base, your super base, your structure section, and the base, the sub base, and then however you want to make it, whether it be a rigid pavement or flexible pavement, all of those will be showing up. That's your cross section. Okay. And when all that is done, then they have what they call layout. Now the layout section of the what happened? The layout section of the road itself of your design. During the layout process, when you're doing your layout sheets, this is where you identify every critical point on the design. You list all of your drainage issue, and I'll talk about the drainage business here. You list all of the design, your curve, and what are the EC begin curve, end curve, and what is the radius of that curve? Because those are the information the surveyor going to use later on to lay out the road for construction. And this was I didn't see that. I know I saw some kids was doing surveying, but to lay a curve, a survey, you do it in 25 increment, 25 radius increment, whatever it is. So because you don't do 50, you don't do 100 because it's too far. You do 25 segment, so you don't miss a lot. I wasn't seeing, and when you're doing it, when you go to, I'm sorry, many of you don't know construction, but when you go to construction and see, they put these little wire. They're not wire, they're plastic, but they call it pigtails. They put them down, and they tell you on each of them, they're right there. On the side of it, they have the stake where they put in Liberia. You know what you use for stake? You see, this is, and let me throw a little bit of politics in here. Our people, the leadership, they don't know how to make money in our country. They tell the surveyor, when the white people give them the money, all of that thing is inside. But they cut corners. And that's why you have bamboo being a traffic guy in Liberia on Ralph Highway. They use bamboo. Money in there. They didn't use bamboo stake in their estimate. They use combs. Not on a comb. They use drum. Not on a drum. They also use channelizer. But when they give them the money, they go and cut bamboo and make a cast of concrete and stick the bamboo in there. What at night you can't even see the bamboo. I was there, I saw it. I'm not making it up. Whereas if they were use channelizer, the reflection from the channelizer, you can't miss the hole. You saw one of the deputy fell in the hole, right? Allah, and I want that drew. Okay. So when you're done with all of that stuff is done. The surveyor now takes all of that. Now they have a fancy program that you're truly is the master of. I love it when I say that. But true. They call it AutoCAD. AutoCAD, and the one we use for design is Civil 3D, but it's the same as AutoCAD, and they have another one called MicroStation. So all of those that design stuff, okay? But nobody beating me on that one because that's my bread and butter. I want to come forward, I want to fool around with it. He says, oh, something to it, yeah, man. Oh, you're asking today, man. No big deal. When I say I'm not coming to work, people want to know what happened. My stomach running. It running where it going? It going to Morea? The boss want to know. When I say I'm not coming, what happened, Mr. Toe? When I say my stomach running, where it running to? Going to Morea? SAMSON Toe, LIBRIA Public Books. I'm having fun as well. But let's go on a very serious note. So after all of that is done, you have all of your design criteria. Now in the civil 3D design, you have what they call template. And I will show you guys all of that. Don't worry. Don't worry. I will show you. I will show you, because the reason I'm doing this is this. I want these people in Liberia to understand that these things are important. They have to follow it. They don't follow it, that Ralphie Highway will not turn out good. But they don't care. By then, many of them will not be in office anyway. And God forbid, if this, what, did I say God forbid? Yeah, okay, God forbid. If this government is not successful to be re-elected, many other people run away. They will leave. We saw in Madame Salih's turn. Many of the young people that are working, where are they now? They all left. They all left. Your Judy Moore and all, they're here in America. The fool will stay down in Montreal and say, let's struggle and build this country. They wouldn't want to build country when they're getting paid $15,000. Then they want to stay and build. After the $15,000 dry out, they run away and come back to Allah. Okay, please, y'all not get me started. But anyhow, the reason I'm doing this is that so these people, since LPR, our leader, Mr. So, is giving me the opportunity to do this, I want to make sure that I utilize it effectively. Not to degrade or to say something bad about my country. That's my country. If I say anything bad about Liberia, that means I say I don't work for 2 cents. And for sure, I work for 10 cents. Not just 2 cents, I work for 10 cents. So I would not say anything bad about my country. That is not true. You're in Monrovia. Look at the rule. Your first thing, you look at Doe community. When they started constructing that road in the rainy season. I have video. I did a 1 hour just like I'm doing that. But that's a different subject. So when you're done, the design is done, yeah. You pass it on to the folks that's supposed to inspect. They themselves, they're also designers. They call it office engineers. So these people take this thing. It's okay. They look at your design. They redline it. Because it's coming from you. It's not to say you God. So they redline it. Now, the redlining process, when it comes back to me as a designer, I have the intent. And I must be able to defend my design. If I don't agree with the red line, I say, no, I don't agree with it. They say, why? I say, I'm from Total. And we into that, you can't kick me around. I don't agree with it. So, but I have to defend it. And other engineers have to accept and buy into my knowledge and buy into my intent. And overall, my intent, will they result into safety or dangers to the utilizer of my facility? And secondly, it's the economical. Once I can prove routine, okay, Mr. To, well, but then the other guy now, the other guy, I forget his name again. He must say, well, when we go to these kinds of meeting, oh, everybody else quiet. And I don't care. I can speak the when I really want to confuse them, they are going to the no-code English. Then I put on, what you mean? Why you know? You know anything about it here? You not do it before? What wrong you said? Eh? You think that your business lead up? And I start talking. Okay, you'll leave something. Let's see. You think I'm a fool after spending night and all that kind of stuff? But I have to convince them. Then we'll go up to the next level. Then they call me in again. It's okay. Can you explain what happened here? Then I will take my time and explain. We did it on one of the projects. What's the name of that project? Burning. It's a long, about almost 20 some more miles. Long one. But they have a different segment. One of them, they grind, take out the old pavement, they put it down. The other one, they just put everything over it. And then after that, they put some drainage stuff and all. So, and then they put what it call honor drain. Now, honor drain, you see these people, they're killing us in Liberia. That whole Ralphie Highway, I did not see honor drain system. UD. And it rains 6 months in Liberia. What kind of pavement you going to put on that road that the edge will not be able to have some sort of a seepage? But the way you control the seepage from going on your pavement, it have on a drain. I didn't see that. But anyway, I will talk about that later. So We did all of those things. Put on a drain on there, and I have to explain all of them. And then they have, when you're doing a rehab, your pavement, existing pavement, you cut it, boom, saw cut. But how do you connect it to the new one? They have what they call interlock system. And just as the word suggesting, interlock. You put it in. First is this. You grind a little bit of the old one because you're going to put it in now. Then you take fabric. Well, in enough, they don't like fabric. You know what they use? You know what? Yeah. We're suffering you. You know what they use? Coconut fabric. What do we have coconut in Liberia? Do we have coconut? I said coconut fabric. They don't want any other fabric in enough. They want coconut fabric. And I will show you my design and show you the NCA coconut fabric. So they put that coconut fabric in there. The coconut fabric is go on the old one. Then you build it up. Then you put some neoprene fabric. You put it on before you put the taco, and then you smooth it over. Just think about it. The coconut fabric and the neoprene go on inside the old one, and you're setting on. You able to pull it? No, it's interlock. That's it. Now, because I say interlock doesn't mean it's gonna last 400, 500 years. You sooner or later they're gonna take it and put another one. But I'm done with my job. But let's go back. So when you're done with all of those things, your drainage system, which is one of the most important aspects of the roadway design, must be adequate, must be done sufficiently. The reason here is this. Tires are rubber. Tires are rubber. Rubber and water don't mix, especially there's no, when you're driving and the water set on the road, your tire not even touching the road. There's no friction. How they call it? Hydroplane. Look it up. Hydroplane. Where the water, with the tire touch the water, it ain't touch anything, full fly. Because there's no friction. Nothing holding you. So one of the most important, and that's why you have the side slope. Now you see why. You have this, and one of the things I love about Liberia is the 2%. It rains 6 months. So you give me 2%, which is much more steeper than the 2.5%, which is much more steeper than the 2%. So when you have that, no water gonna stay on the road. Most of it, unless you have pothole. And I'll tell you how pothole comes about. I'll tell you all that one. Don't worry. I'll tell you all that one. Okay. Tonight, I'm not showing no video. I'm just talking. And you tell me what I'm saying if it doesn't make sense, even if you're not an engineer. What I just pull it from the heart and just talk about it, it's up to you. You make that judgment. SAMSON told, you make that judgment. But anyhow, so the 2% allow the water to slope downward. But here's the interesting thing. If you see quota, for some reason, if here in California, they have what they call rainbow strip. On the side, right immediately after the open grade, they have a rumble strip. So when you start driving, as soon as you go, you grrr. So when you're sleeping at night, they wake you and put you back on the road. They do the same thing with the center. Only the undivided road highway will have center with rumble strip. You're driving, you're sleeping, so you cross it, grrr, you come back. They save you. That's saving. You're not gonna hit anybody now. But anyhow. The good thing they do here is this. They have what they call open grade asphalt, OGAC, G. Then they have dense grade asphalt. So when they put the fresh asphalt down, maybe about 4 inches of it, it's dense grade. They make it so water don't go through. The open grade, just as the name suggesting, it's open. It's also makes now. It's a real good mix. Mix design is real good, but the material, the rock in it, they're a little bit bigger, and the sand that is mixed with the rocks, they are a little bit rough. They're not fine, but they're holding. The asphalt that you put in there. Have you seen asphalt on fire before? I've seen it in the lab. You know, Astro has a flashpoint, you know, but I'm not going to go to that. Forget it. Samson told. Let me bring Sissy here. I think this phone is just too much for myself this evening. Sissy, good evening. Thank you for joining me. Can you hear me? Your mic?
My mic is on.
Okay, thank you. Anyhow, so I'm just going over the design process, and then I will go into construction. So please jump in anytime. You're also an engineer, so you know exactly what I'm talking about. So they put the dense grade down. The dense grade, they go a little bit farther. Then they put the open grade, also following the 2%. But the open grade, they have it like maybe they stop it about 4 or 5 inches or even 6 inches before the edge of the dense grade. So when it rains, it goes through the open grade. But when it hit the dense grade, it's getting out. Now, in Liberia, and true story, folks, and this is sad. This is sad. Because when the white people give us the money, they make sure, because in their estimate, they have all of those things listed. They have what they call dike. Okay. So dike is supposed to help you to control the water that is coming off of the street. So it don't jump, because when you let the water sheet flow, most of the time you create erosion problem. And the erosion will start going into your road and cause you problem. So they have dike, and they have different type of dike, of course. But they have dike that controls the water to channel the water straight into the DI or straight into the open drain, whatever you have there. In Liberia, what do they have? They have dike, but they make the dike out of concrete. I stopped. When you leave Kagata, when you leave Bon County, before you reach Nima, that all the dike you see there, that's so concrete, and they are breaking up. And in order for you to repair that, you're going to have to pour concrete. Whereas if it was asphalt, it's easy to repair. Okay? So anyhow, when you're done with all that, turn it over, the contractor comes and then follow those things. Say, go ahead. I don't want to keep you.
So I was listening, and what intrigued me, I know I'm going to take you back a little bit, but what intrigued me was when you talked about those curves on the road and determining speed limit. And incidentally, today in my calculus class to high schoolers, I was teaching that today. And what we're looking at was calculating the slope of a curve, because that's a tangent, and you want to make sure that the slope of the curve is such that when you determine the speed, so that when vehicles are traveling, they're able to stay in the curve versus sliding off the curve.
Centrifugal force.
Yes. And so when the vehicles are traveling in the curve, that's the reason speed limits in the curves are usually different than speed limit when you're driving on a straight road.
Right.
Because when you get in the curve, you have a lot of forces pulling you. Now, exactly. if the line tangent to the curve, it is such that your speed does not match that. It's almost like what we teach when we did sine and cosine back in the day in high school. Right. You look at the unit circle and you tell somebody any distance from the middle of the circle to anywhere out there is 1. And so the most you can have is -1 of 1, right? We're looking at sine and cosine oscillation. Exactly. And so when you go beyond 1, or you above 1 or below -1, you're off the unit circle. Mm-hmm. So if it's a Ferris wheel, those of us that go to the fair, your kids sit on the Ferris wheel and they're rolling around. If it's a Ferris wheel, they're off the wheel. And so it's the same thing when you're traveling in that curve and your speed is such that it's off the slope that's tangent to that curve, you're somewhere in the valley. Mm-hmm. And that is the reason there is a road going to my home, to my brother's house in Coca-Cola factory at Zizé community. I know a lot of people know that place. When you get to Zizé community, there is a deep curve. I don't know if you follow that road coming right out of Cowfield area, not Cowfield, but Dupo Road, getting into the community, going towards the pipeline road. There is a very deep curve, Libra. In that curve sits a house right here.
You said Dupo Road
Dupo Road going towards pipeline on the community road.
Okay, when you said Dupo Road, the only one Dupo Road I know is the one coming from Painesville area.
That's a Painesville area, so the community is Painesville, right? So you come in, passing through, when you come from AB Double Road, the back road there, you know that AB Double Road, you take that back road, you're going into Painesville, but you don't take the regular Painesville route that we used to take.
Right. So
you
war. Take the road I go to Benson Hospital.
There you go. You go.
You pass
after Kizito. When you get past Kizito and you go up, in fact, there are a series of curves on that road.
Yeah.
At the Benson Hospital, right to Kizito, right there, you can see how they forced the road over there.
Right.
And because of that, they had to put speed bumps, like concrete speed bumps.
Yes.
Because they know that if a car is traveling freely, the slope of that curve is so bad that everybody's going to be off that road. They're going to be running into St. Kizito.
Right.
And then when you go up, all the way up, and you get past so when you get past Kizito, there's also another curve out there. If people aren't careful when they're traveling, you'll run down the road there into people over there. But the one I'm talking about is once you get off there, you go up the hill. There is a deep curve over there, and I'm saying like mud houses in that curve sitting right there. And when they range the water, because the way they build the road, they forgot that the roads have to have a gradient. And the gradient is just slope, rise over road.
Right.
And they build these things in a way so that whole place gets flooded and the water is coming backward. And so when you're traveling, going out that place, there's been a lot of time people have almost, in fact, there was one time a car ran into the house that's sitting right in there.
Right.
And so all of these things are just basic high school mathematics.
Exactly. What we do, what you're talking about, and that's what you do in school. But at this point, as a designer, you're not going to touch those things because ASTN and all of the people that have done the testing, they already put all of those things together. People like you, you bring those kinds of mathematical aspect on it. You put everything. They give you the grade. They give you, for example, the radius. Say, okay, you're going to use 204 radius here. This is this percent speed that is going to be required. So you know, based on the curve, they have already done the testing. You say, okay, what matter to argue with the people? But you have to understand the basic of it.
And that's the point I'm making, because the computer already does that for you. But if you understand what it means, then it becomes very difficult for you to take those shortcuts they're taking, right? Because for some people, they just see those things, the computer spits out the number, and they just think these are just numbers. It says 5 here and 10 here. I can reduce it to 3 and 2 on the other side. But you know, because if you understand what the math is, that is saving the life, or the physics. I heard you talking about brick speed, for example. Right. And those are all things that come with, you have to look at the material you're dealing with that you have on the road to determine how much friction you got, to determine the brake speed. And so because we don't do all of those, what you find is that in the city, in places where you have a lot of pedestrians and stuff, they put these concrete road speed breakers.
And
they refuse to build a road in the right way.
That's the thing about those speed bump that they're supposed to put in there. They're doing it wrong, in fact. Because the speed bump, if you watch the one in Liberia, they're creating shear condition. Because when the tire leave the side and goes over it, and then it bounce, boom. That's a shear condition of the road. And most of the time, when you watch the speed bump, all of the potholes, they're right underneath the speed bump. And they think they're smart. You know, this for some reason they think that's. I look at it, I say, well, what is it? I'm not even going to waste my time with it. So you know, but that's what we have. And these people are supposed to know better. They're not structural engineers in Liberia. They should know better. But they're cutting corners and taking kickback. And that's what I heard. Another thing, I call it the road Broad Street, all the way to Crown Hill up there, before you get to Bush. What's the name of
Benson Street area. There's a deep curve those days.
Yep,
And
that crown
time,
curve. Yep.
When I was growing up in Maria, car always flipping and getting all that old little house.
And then you have Slipway community down there in that.
Those things are common. You keep the curve, but you make it into a super elevation. Yep. So the higher the super, that car's not going to go there. That car going to stay right into this curve and go back into the tangent. Yeah.
And
that's I think.
But the funny thing is, you have university professors who are physicists and mathematicians, and even high school math teachers driving those roads, and I work for the ministry, and some of them will make those decisions, and you'd be wondering, you're teaching physics, and you decided to approve this cut, and you didn't even you want to tell me you didn't understand what you're teaching, because that is just basic high school math and high school physics. And they are feeling that. Look, I remember when I used to go to Cathedral High School. So when we go into school, when the taxi or the car you in get in that curve, and you go down Crown Hill, I used to always feel that little feeling in my stomach, like something tickling you.
Yeah,
you go down and you come back up.
Yeah.
And for the life of me, I used to always wonder, why does that happen on the Crown Hill?
The Crown Hill itself there's no sight distance.
No, and that is the reason you go there. You can feel it in your stomach, and you go back up. But presidents have gone up and down that Crown Hill.
On that road,
ministers have gone up and down that Crown Hill. None of them, since Totman, have ever decided, you know what, we need to at least take a deeper look at this thing.
They're not going to do it.
But you struck a point. I think the biggest problem between developed countries and what's happening in Liberia and a lot of developing countries is the issue of legacy, right? My name. Who built this road? That SAMSON built the road. That SAMSON construction company built this road. That legacy. So if I don't build it right, if I don't build it properly, I will be held liable for it. And my company that I think I'm building to create wealth for my family, my generations yet unborn, could be sued for anything happening on that road. But that doesn't happen in Liberia. The Chinese man comes and he comes to the rightful plan from the beginning, and people ask for small money here and there, and they cut it. And these inspectors that come from the Ministry of Public Works, they are supposed to be able to go there and do this math and do this calculation and say, no, you can't build this. They take the little thing, set in the ministry in court suit. And my first time seeing field agent wear court suit, set in the ministry, and trying to determine the gradient of a road or a curve without even going there.
No.
And so what happens is 3, 4, 5 years from now, if the road is damaged or people are having accident on that road, how many times have you heard people say we're going to sue the engineers that approved this road?
They don't even talk about him.
Cares.
No.
Nobody cares.
And so, I mean, sister, you're quite correct. And these are kinds of stuff our brothers and sisters normally would not, they don't even pay attention to those things. And I know some of these people were very smart. The minister of public works, highly educated lady, very smart. I've had interaction with her. I have conversation. In fact, did an interview with her, and I asked a bunch of questions. They have another lady over there. They call her. I'll call her name Josiah. Very, very smart. I took almost 30, 45 minutes talking to her about zoning, and everything she stated are all in the zoning manual. But guess what? When she goes to enforce, the people call the Capitol building. So the person who at Capitol building call the minister and say, call Josiah back. We don't want no trouble in our community. Are you kidding me? Yep. So there's another gentleman, a friend of mine, built a house, beautiful house with beautiful fence. Right next, behind him, another guy built a house and decided to make it 2-story. Now he's way above the fence. He can see in the yard, the guy yard that he's trying to protect. Because no zoning, these things, why should these things happen in Liberia? Why is that? Is that because we don't know? No, it's not that.
No, we know. We just intentionally ignore knowledge. That's what happens. We know, Libra. And that's why I don't like, sometimes when I watch other shows and people try to make it look like there is an academic wilderness so to speak, in Liberia. No, it's not. We have very knowledgeable people in Liberia. We have very smart people in Liberia. I know a lot of physicists and structural engineers in Liberia that could pass an American test and become licensed engineer in the U.S.
Oh, they have plenty of them.
Yes, and these people have, I know some of them have the private companies. But the problem is, what is the legacy? What actually holds them down? What grounds them? And it happens to be that most time nothing grounds these people, because there will be somebody making a decision. No, here's the bad part about it, Libra. Some of these people that make this decision to build these structurally unsound roads will drive on the road themselves.
Yes.
It's not like they're doing it for other people that they will never get on the road, or that their children or children's children will not get on those roads. So these are people making conscious decisions for today's $2-3 to put their own lives at risk and the lives of their children at risk.
Yeah.
And these same people will be sitting there crying when some kind of an accident happened on the road, and they put their hair on their head, oh God, and then they blame the executive mansion. Why are you blaming the executive mansion? You are the engineer. You tell the person calling from the executive mansion, we can't do this. This is what the gradient has to be. This is how we set the speed. This is why our braking distance is this. You explain. And if people want to override you, then you leave.
Yeah, exactly.
Then you leave.
You leave because you're educated. You train yourself. But you know who running public works right now? That what's his name? Edwin Snow. And my own senator from Grand Gillette, Armozo Peno. They are the people that pretty much determine how things run in a public work. When they tell the minister what comment to make, how to make the comment, and everything else.
And with all due respect to Edwin Snow, this is somebody who has not taken a math class, a physics class, an engineering class beyond high school.
Yeah.
So he does not have the technical know-how or the technical wherewithal to be able to say, here is where policy meets the engineering.
Or even if you're going to do something like that, get some engineers to be in your office, to talk to you, you ask them questions. They don't do that.
No, they don't. They don't
do that.
You see, and those are things that happen like here. Like I know in my state, for example, there were lawmakers that reached out to me to advise them on education policy, right, at the state capitol. And so when education policy issue comes out that they don't know, they're not teachers, they have never worked as teachers, they call me and other people and say, yo, what do you think about this? And then we give them what we think, and then they look at it from the policy perspective, but keeping in mind what we've told them who are the practicing experts are. And then they make a decision. But I wonder what's happening in the offices of these legislators. Are they really having the brains of the people? You don't even sometimes have to hire these people. Just pay them a consultant fee. Consultancy fee. There's a lot of engineering firms in Liberia that'll be willing to consult with these lawmakers and make sound decisions for our people, but they don't want to pay the money and they don't want to do it.
Let me put a number up. It's okay, folks. If you want to participate in the conversation, give us a call. The number is right there. Call us. And but yes, it's it's very sad that our people at this time are still not able to understand how important these things are, and they just, for some reason, they think it's not important. I guess.
Did you travel outside of? I know you did, because I think you went to Grand Gillette, right?
Yeah.
You remember that hill? And they call it Bago Hill. You know that Bago Hill, that hill before getting to Kakata, that is over there, that very deep valley.
Right.
And Ellen went and paved that road. Kudos to her. But they didn't even put strong enough barriers. And this is a road that winds around a hill. Mm-hmm. And when it rains, that road is very slippery. I don't know what grade of material to use on it. That place becomes very slippery. Mm-hmm. There have been few accidents in that place. As a matter of fact, there was a time where an entire car got off that hill and dropped off into the valley. Mm-hmm. Right. Mm-hmm. But we have smart people traveling their roads. We have the president of the Republic of Liberia Ellen Johnson Sirleaf, George Weah, putting their lives at risk, traveling their road. And when these convoys travel, they travel at very high speed.
Yeah, they do.
And they're on those roads without really quality guardrails to block them. God forbid one of our presidents gets into one of those things. Now we got a constitutional crisis.
And many of the guardrail that I saw between Banga and Ganta, those are guardrail that are not gonna forgive. I didn't see any guardrail that has a system of like a breakaway. None. The same way they do the light poles in Monrovia. Light pole, they're right there in the street. And many of your light poles supposed to have, they call it breakaway. Where you hit it, just share and throw the light pole once. But in Monrovia, when you hit a light pole, you know you hit something. If God help you, you live. You know, why would in this time, why would we do that? One of the things that I've always come to was conclusion is that our people, they think they're smart, but they're not. People like Edwin Snow, people like many of those young Liberians that have money, put yourself together with your money and buy some of these materials so people will buy them from you or rent them from you and utilize them in the country. But they don't do that. When these people go and do the estimate, I have the estimate for Ralphie Highway, by the way, and the $110 million, they have it broken down, and in there, they, as I was saying earlier, they have channelizer, they have drums, they have cones. But what are they using now? Bamboo reef. They use a bamboo reef where they go and build a cast of a concrete base about 2 inches high and maybe 4 inches wide, square, and then they stick the bamboo reef in it in the middle, and they think that's what gonna. And what do they do? They paint it.
Yep. But Liberia, maybe they're onto something. Maybe there's a research from the University of Liberia that is maybe a top secret that's shown that the bamboo reef. Let me find somewhere force.
Let me take your call. Samson to Liberian Public Radio. What's your name? Where you're calling from? What's on your mind?
Oh, thank you ever so much. The name is Jerry James Dobley. I'm calling from Worcester, Mass.
Thank you for calling, sir.
Thank you for the topic, senior brother. To admit, you see, in our country, Liberia, it's an old age problem. What I noticed in Liberia when I was in Liberia, people who God have blessed the king in the advanced country, they know good thing, they know system. And God will have it to go in a country that was successful, someone that will become lawmaker, president. They refuse to apply the system that they learn in a Western country. So sometimes I really sit and be thinking and say, wow, what is really happening to our country? It is a curse or it's just a wickedness. What Liberian people really learn, they learn all way you will call them cheap. You will go to the whole, can you imagine somebody will be a driver for a lawmaker? You will get a busman home, then you get Okata to go, so now you want to go. So can't you go to your own horse? You see the mentality we get in Liberia. Yeah, those people, the people learn, you will always call me cheap. So can you imagine your boss man, you will carry a man home, you open the car door, you enter, when you go there, you will be plastic. What you can't tell them before? You have to, a person when you will sweep the hall, clean the floor, do everything, then you go, you leave the car there, you walk to go home. So money you rushing to go for your boss man to carry him to work. You see, our people, they come in advanced country, they know good things. This is what I like about America. You see the people country, senior brother, the system here, you whosoever said, you first go about the system. Tell me an example. If you come in a country, before I go say for the attitude test, if you want to be a driver, you pass that one first, then you have to go for another test again. Nobody will tell you because it's compulsory for you to drive for yourself. Yeah, now every day you will be asking somebody, please come in the way. So all the good things our people carry in the area, different countries, they see it for themselves. You go back home, God bless them, they're successful. For them to apply, even when I also apply portion of it to better your own country. But they can't do that, you know, always call it cheap. Our country needs zero prayer. Yeah, zero prayer.
Thank you.
Thank you. That was so much. I really like the topic.
Thank you.
I pray that people will listen to the thing and change their mind. This is why I let Laurent Bobler changing mind, changing attitude. Our people, they need to change the way they think. That'll improve our country. Thank you that was so much.
Thank you. Thank you. And since this is what I my thinking on this is that because of these people behavior, leadership behavior to our country, keeping a lot of Liberians alive. They worry about the country. They can't get sick. How you get sick when you worry?
You are so wrong for that.
But here's the thing that I feel
people to be alive, eh?
Yeah, that's another thing that I feel bad about our people, especially the Liberians that are traveling, that are in a foreign country. Every little good thing they see, how they think how I can get a kind of thing in Liberia. Every one of us, even when you are in school, if the professor brings us some beautiful idea, the first thing, yeah, that would be good if that kind of thing were in Liberia. The Liberians love Liberia. You know, but the sad thing is, the group that have that kind of behavior, they're getting older. And the young ones that are being born in this country, many of them will not have that kind of sympathetic mind towards Liberia. They are not connected. They are not connected. And our people, they just refuse. They just refuse. Many of the people that want jobs from government and what have you, when they go in Washington, once this CDC government is over, many of the high-profile ministers and what have you, they will run back here. They will not stay there. They will not stay.
Yep.
And so
I actually think that is a function of two things, though, Libra. Sorry for cutting you off. I think that is a function of two things. I think people now, you know, back in the day when I remember my grandfather joined the Liberian Frontier Force. He actually went to Congo as a peacekeeper and came back. And he would talk about, even though at the time the Liberian Frontier Force was being used to dehumanize the indigenous, and he believed he fought for his country. He would talk with fondness about what it meant to wear the uniform, albeit they didn't have any shoe to have base on for the Liberian Frontier Force. There was something because he saw that he was buying a share in a country and that country in return will care for him. It's like when our people talk fondly about Firestone. Let's talk about how the people will be sick. They'll be sick. They go to work. They got to go to work. Lamco, the other things. Because they had in their mind a social contract with those companies that I gave you my best right now, so that when I retire in my worst, you will take care of me. But if you look at the Liberian government today, how many soccer stars who gave their everything to play for the Lone Star died in abject poverty, and we had to do GoFundMe to bury them? You just think about that. And this is not a shame for George Weah. I'm not even trying to call the president in this. I'm just looking at people who have given their all. I know retired public servants, people who work in government for their entire lives, died, and we bury them like worse than chicken. And so if I'm here looking at that, the Libra, I'm saying this person, let's say, for example, a guy who always come on this show here, our brother, what's his name? He was on the show the other day. I always call him senior player. The IE guy. You call him the IE guy.
Yeah, IE player.
Aaron Poblet.
Yeah.
Aaron Poblet there playing for Liberia. I got a good friend, Nestor Sandy. These people play for Liberia. This is Roberts and all these people. They give their all to Liberia. If any one of these people gets sick, is there anything in the government that takes care of them? No. Look at what happened to Joga Wiagade and the rest of the other people. Look at what happened, goodbye or indifference. Look at what happened to the likes of Jenkins Scott. And so if I see all of those things, I'm thinking in government today, we don't have a relationship. We don't have an unspoken agreement, Liberian government and me. And so today I collect what is mine, so that tomorrow, if I die, my children will bury me. Tomorrow, if I'm broke, my children will bury me. And the way I ensure they can do that is to steal today. And I think that is a problem we need to go back to holistically think about, to talk about, because people have to see that the government will be there for them in order for them to do their part of the bargain. Now, would there be some people who are just, just bad and want to steal? Absolutely. But I'm talking about changing the mindset of the vast majority. When people collect Social Security money from employees today, and Social Security in Liberia is bankrupt, and that person don't want to retire, they're not even going to get the money. What do you think that person is going to do when they see small money? They're going to take it. And that is what's happening with our engineers when they see the little bit of money and say, oh, we can reduce the gradient here, even though they know that what they're doing will cause harm, will cause accident. It's for today's eating because I got to guarantee my future tomorrow. That has to change. How that changes, I don't know.
Well, but Sese, I think you just stated the core of the entire corrupt behavior in the country. And I think Mr. Cumming, in one of the things that I always play, he stated that you have to, first of all, recognize that these people have children to feed. And even before you go to their retirement and what have you, what do they have right now? They get paid at the end of the day, before the end of the month, they're broke already. And then, worst of all, those who they see, they get rich overnight. Overnight, people who were at the bottom, in fact, some of these people that are working, making 200, 300, were better off than these people 5, 6, 7 years ago. And then out of a sudden, that person now got over $500,000 house. Where did he get that kind of money from? And you want me as a tax collector to come and report to you so you will continue to enrich yourself? I will scheme. And that's what the people are doing. So how do we stop that? It's going to start from the top. First of all, any government that comes in, say Madam Salia, stay in power, start auditing from there. It doesn't mean, like you always say, auditing doesn't mean the person is guilty. You just want to prove that you didn't do anything wrong.
Or we find better way to do things going forward.
Exactly. And if for some reason you are caught stealing, not necessarily to punish you, you can atone. You can come back and say, my people, I beg you. Liberian, the spirit of forgiveness is in Liberia. It's right there. That's why God sleeps in Liberia all the time. People will quick to forgive. Can you imagine? The kind of look, like I was saying yesterday with the president and this guy, Reginald Guru stuff. The issue of that, for me, it was like the president is still traumatized. And this is the president of the Republic of Liberia. He can work his finger anytime, enjoy himself anytime, do anything he wants to do in the world. But yet still, that Mercedes-Benz and the houses that he built now, compared to the house they burned, where's the value? The car that they took, where's the value to where he's riding now? But the idea is in his mind until he can sit in that couch and have somebody to diagnose him and tell him, this is your problem and this is how we can work with it. Not by medication. I'm not talking about that. But every one of us need to go through that, Sissy. Other than that, it's at the bottom. And it's there. No matter what we do, you can't get out of it until. And the other point that I was making is the president, he can come out and say all kind of thing in front of a lot of people. But what's about the person, young person, who is a little bit older now, working, wheelbarrow, but saw his mom killed, saw his brother, sisters, everybody else killed right before his own eyes. And that person holding those things in his heart. And the people that did that, most likely are still walking in the street of Monrovia. He knows them. He sees them. How does he respond to that? He can't say much. And that's why I say God lives in our country. That we are not having people committing suicide day in, day out. God lives in our country. That Liberian wants to live. And so the government officials themselves, you're going to need someone who will recognize these things and say, it's not about the money, but we're here to help our people. Let's help each other.
Yeah.
You know, it's very sad. It's very sad. But these are the kinds of stuff we have. And when you try to do these kinds of stuff, like the show I'm having here with you now tonight, you do these things, people think, say, oh, hey man, I'm surprised my nephew hasn't called yet. Because he usually calls and say, you just sit down in America, just may be more. You know, each and every why can't come home. Yeah, my nephew. And then people are going to say, oh, and I said to my nephew, but you know, but it doesn't matter. But the point is, you go home. The last time I went home, I only went to Ministry of Public Works one time. I refused to visit it because for some reason you go there want to see it's like you want a job. You know, it's so to become defensive just to say hi to you, just to even have a conversation with you. They start showing their engineering prowess, you know, how good they are. But that's not what I'm here for, you know? And so I decided, no, I'm not even going to visit these people. I'm not going to visit it. And so there's a project that I'm involved with, and I'm hoping to do this project and showcase that when I'm done with it. It's a role project, but I hope to. It's going to be difficult. It's going to be difficult, but I think I can do it, and I know I will do it. So once that project is done, I will be showcasing again all over the place. But yeah, go ahead. Let's go ahead.
I you know, when you spoke on the Reginald Goodrich and President Weah issue, what I thought about was in one of my education psychology classes was we had a comment saying that said, pain, and I'm going to try to kind of paraphrase this, but pain that has not been transformed is easily transferred.
Mm-hmm.
That is how usually we pass on historical trauma, historical pains to people who had nothing to do with anything. Or like in the president's case, he hasn't come to term yet psychologically. Like you pointed out, he has a lot more than that. He hasn't come to term with that issue yet. So that pain for him has not been transformed. And so therefore, it's really easy for him to transfer that pain to someone else or to a group of people somewhere. And that is what we're dealing with in Liberia. And that is why I always have a problem when people hear of audit or they hear of economic war and economic crime code as somehow thinking that there's one group against another. No, the economic crimes code and the war crimes code does not necessarily has to result in death penalties, but has to result in the person you spoke of, Mr. Toad, that hypothetical person riding a wheelbarrow, cleaning coconut, selling coconut, to make their living, knowing that they have seen a horrific event where they lost their loved ones, and somebody who will wind down that window of that car and stop to buy that coconut from them might be a perpetrator.
Yes.
How does that person deal with that? What ends up happening most of the time is those people go home, they drink a lot of alcohol, they beat their wives, they beat their children, sometimes for no reason. Because that pain has not been transformed, and so it gets transferred to their families, to their loved ones. And that is a bigger issue, I think, that we need to tackle in Liberia. Because if we don't deal with that thing, if we don't handle that thing, you have all these killings, all these horrible things that happen. Some of the time is because of psychological issues. The pains that a lot of people saw or felt have not been transformed. They're dealing with raw, naked pain. Look, I'll tell you a story. There was a family that used to live on Payne Avenue. And back in the day when you live on Payne Avenue, ooh, man, y'all were the thing, houses and fence and stuff. And we used to come down from Zinkian, 11th Street, beyond Tommy House fence there. That's where I grew up. And we used to go out there, go on the beach side to go play soccer, and then we end up in these guys' house to watch TV. Mm-hmm. Back then, black and white TV, they had color TV. So we used to go there, man. You stand, you watch your phone, you stay in the living room, you're away from the TV because the family's in the living room watching. You'll sit to the door of the living room, you'll be watching. These were people, by all means, that had it. Mm-hmm. Okay. Mm-hmm. My father used to work for LRTN at the time, He was the chief engineer there. So sometimes he would save about 3 months worth of salary to pay my tuition to go to Cathedral, while these kids were just paying tuition, like real quick. Fast forward, I went to Liberia and seeing this guy. The war had come, they had burned down their properties on the Payne Avenue. This guy, Mr. Toe, this guy is selling peanuts, patched peanuts in plastic in a market, sitting right there, right by Jongbeta market, selling. His future took a different turn because of what happens to your family. They lost everything. They killed his family. They lost everything. I seen this guy, I couldn't even make him up. I stopped to buy stuff from somebody else, and then he see me, he just like, oh, so he started calling me, hey, Bibo. So anybody that called that didn't know me from way back in the day. So I thought I see this guy. I don't make it. I said, man, you don't know me? I couldn't make it until he said his name. Mr. Toe, I cried for that brother. The man didn't even have on a fitting pair of slippers. He had 2 different photo slippers on. I gave that guy $100, Mr. Toe. That man worshiped me like I was God. He knelt on the ground. I had to tell my man, get up. But you imagine that guy right now that rents from somebody's zinc shack is going to see the perpetrators, people who drastically changed the trajectory of his future. How you expect him to deal with that? The man smoke weed all day, he gets high, he drink alcohol, people are laughing, oh man, how many get that man, you can just drink whole day today.
Yeah, but that's how he keeps himself alive.
You don't understand the psychological issue he's going through. That's the problem we got. We got to fix that. We got to deal with that. However way we deal with that, it doesn't mean people have to be put on firing squad. It just means that the victims, those people who have suffered, will be allowed the chance to meet with those people who are the architect of their sufferings, to have a one-on-one conversation so they can move on. So those things can be transformed so that it doesn't get transferred to their children.
Yeah, that's just a brilliant conversation again, as usual, where we start with something and then we end up with back home of all of us, things that happen to us, and it's double for Liberians. It's double because many of the Liberians that went to these foreign countries as refugee came back with those foreign ideas. How the Ghanaians behave, Liberians that live in Ghana come and they when they're talking to you, they go like like what's that? What is this? But that's what they grew up with. People from Nigeria, they come out, and the worst of all, the crook business. The Liberian was never like that. We were proud. I mean, Liberia was one of the places.
Let me throw a monkey wrench. Then you continue. Why is it that we adapt things from other societies, other cultures? You just talk about the 419, the thievery and everything. And even you'll find Liberians that have never been to Nigeria that will speak with Nigerian accent simply because they got 2 Nigerian friends. You take a Liberian guy right now. We say now, yeah, we're talking about, remember, leave me alone, but the minute that guy enters a room with 2 or 3 Nigerians, you listen to his accent. He speaks like he's from Abuja, right? And you do the same thing for, the quote-unquote series. There are people in Liberia on radio, I've heard talk on radio in Liberia that have never left Liberia, that speaks like they were born in America. So why is it that we're so able and capable to adapt to those other things, but we do not adapt to the positives of those cultures? Why, the Libra?
Well, for me, and I don't have an answer for that, but I what I do believe is that we Liberians will always like to imitate. And the sad thing is, only a few Liberians will imitate the positive most of the time. But many of us would like to imitate. Even the football playing business, you will see some people, they name themselves, even with your own best soccer talent mind, they still name themselves after other people because perhaps that would boost their soccer career and what have you. And one other thing here before I leave, and I don't, not because you're on my show, but one of the things, I grew up in the barracks, by the way, BTC. And I grew up with a lot of people from Lofa County, Bon County, and those kids. Then we use a copella ball or lama ball or something like that. They always bassa ball, that kinds of stuff. But why would it first? Okay, let me take this call here. Samson to Liberian Public Radio. What's your name? Where you're calling from? What's on your mind?
This is James. We're calling from Harrisburg, Pennsylvania.
Yeah, but you got to speak a little bit into the phone, sir. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm very enjoying the topic tonight. Example, you also a good example with regional gurus and George Weah. We talk about the war and economic crime. So to me, I believe that what other people say about George Weah that he took part in the war is true. He can talk to regional group for burning a house or stealing a car. Then you don't want to bring war and economic crime. It means what they're accusing her is true. Because Ellen Johnson don't want her to bring it because she was part of the war. And they told her not to be president. So she did it. And what George Weah know is soccer. And today, look at all the Liberia for. Why he represent mostly soccer, we cannot get it out of him. So now you see, even if they're going last football game, you saw the football field, it was empty. It was empty because nobody there. The president gets time for football field. I mean, a politician now. Because what he believes in, he cannot prove it to the Liberian people. He cannot show it to all. Why he went all France, Europe, he learned. He came back home, nothing there. He can't even show it to people. Local country give when they pay local money, all what they play, the local metal fee, all the companies that they supply to sponsor them. Government cannot even sponsor them. They can even put $1 million down for the local game. But they can look for $3, $4, $5 million for the president of the road travel and enjoy himself. So he's not even bringing what he learned. Also, by whom to transform his people. Most of the friends they bring for academy. Those are not even president. They don't get money they're not getting hands on local money. He building football academy. What Liberia building Joe we're not building nothing for the people. Everybody like Mama was sick, man. It didn't mean I pay the higher football in the academy, doing nothing for us. They want it will go there and do it for her. All the friends they're dying. People best man. I'm sorry, all the people there they're getting sick, they're dying. Look at Professor where he said Joseph Guanu, who will bring history. See how I made that. Specifically, they ain't get nobody. Now, who was department chairman, political science department chairman? He died a common person. Nobody could. The government couldn't pay attention to him. And the government couldn't pay where they said president, Moses Black. The Moses Black was president. They couldn't even pay that man. The man died. Shameful. Anyway, thank you.
Thank you. Sissy, how do we go from the president is unable to bring soccer or improve the soccer business in Liberia to that of being part of the war? But this is who we are. This is what you see, how you can tell to listen to this guy's voice. It's very painful. And he's not alone. This is not unique to him. Many Liberians. And and this is what I think the politician nowadays supposed to quickly understand, that when you make these kinds of remarks publicly, it's easy for people to transfer those kinds of remarks to your opposition negatively. Because they're already in their mind. They're suffering. Many of us that are here in the United States, I can get up right now and go get in a car. All I need to do is just fill my tank and drive anywhere. But still, the 2-3 hours that I will be driving, Liberia will be on my mind. And there will be so many things that will be going through my mind. Sad, emotionally, sad things that happened in the past, good things that happened in the past. Oh, we are, I'm not too sure how to describe us as Liberian. Because we have everything, and nothing has come out for us to clearly state exactly what is going through, what is going on with us in our mind. But when we get into party, we behave, everything's fine. But in a twinkle of the eye, before you look, something set him up or something set her up, cussing, like they have never been in any kinds of civilized world before. It's very sad. We need to, and other thing that I say is many of these people that have a degree in dealing with people, okay, I think many of them need to go and have their own show. So they bring these things out. Nobody, people not necessarily have to sit in your couch for you to heal them. They don't have to come to church for them to be healed. You can have somebody who is willing to come on your show and narrate his story. And many other people will relate to that. And the way you as a professional psychiatrist, whatever you call yourself, but know how to heal people's mind by just dealing with that, you will be able to heal one or two other people that are not even part of your show. But every one of us just sitting down, waiting to be called, or somehow maybe you want to go home. So it's I don't know. I don't know. But I just want to thank you because we reached the time. I want to thank you. Tomorrow we'll be on with Mr. Social, where definitely we'll be politicking, and we will leave these kinds of emotional issue and goes in to be the best president and what have you. And I won't even past some of the politicians. They most likely are going through a lot of hurt themselves. A lot of them going through a lot of grief. Yeah. But anyhow, go ahead and make your closing.
And I think that's what, and I'm not trying to, give us praise for nothing, but I think that's what sets LPRA apart. Is that we can have this kind of a conversation. And one thing, and real quick, I leave with our audience is that we all bequeath something to our children. We pass on something. Some of us don't pass off financial strength to our kids because we don't have the money. We came here as immigrants. We've been working to lay a foundation. But guarantee what we pass on is trauma. Mm-hmm. There's this thing called historical trauma. There are kids who are born to Liberians in America, never been to Liberia, did not even notice the war in Liberia, but their parents, us, we pass to them genetically historical trauma, and they're dealing with that. And we ask the question why our kids are on drugs, why our kids are behaving this way, why they're going this way, why is it we have so much domestic violence, domestic abuse in our community? Why do we have all of these things? It's because we have not transformed our hurts. And we are transferring those hurts to our homes and to our children. And so like you rightfully said, Mr. Toh, you might not get a 1,000 plus view or the 2,000 plus view that you will get if you're causing mancos. But I guarantee you, if people are coming out here and talking about these things, people who are experts, the one or two that will listen, that will be helped, I think it will go a long way. But the problem is, I was telling one lady the other day, she said, "Oh, I see you on LPR most of the time, but you'll be having like sometimes 900. When you're on a good day, you'll get 1,000, and they were calling somebody else's name who has a toxic show that does a lot of stuff." And he's trying to say, he said, when did we get to this point where Liberians go to watch religiously people who are insulting other people or denigrating other people? I said, well, that started to happen after the war. Because before the war, our people didn't have this much trauma. Yes, they had other things to deal with that were oppressive from government, but not this level. Since the war, we've had so much trauma that has been unaddressed that now we think the way for me to fix my own trauma, the way for me to deal with my trauma, the way for me to deal with my own hurt is to watch somebody else hurting somebody on life. Watch somebody else insulting somebody, denigrating somebody, bringing somebody down below me. That makes me feel better. That is a psychological problem that we have to deal with in our community. And until those of us that call ourselves educated can start to look at that, because you're right, even the politicians deal with that. You listen to my guy Tier 1 when he talked about the Louis Brown situation one time when that retired suffering rider was coming up. He said Louis Brown was an advisor of the child that gave an advice when he was beaten. Tier 1 was almost killed during Tier time. Tier 1 has not fully transformed or being transformed from their hurt. He's a human, just like George Weah dealt with the issue with Reginald Goodrich. We need to have a way where our people, including our leaders, can find a way to be transformed from their hurt so that those hurt don't get transferred to our people in the ways of corruption or theft or other violent means. It happens everywhere. Yeke Koluba is dealing with that, and Akaras Gray, all the other people, they're dealing with that. Though they have hurts that have not been transformed, and so they're being transferred to our larger society.
Again, folks, Samson told LIBRIA here this evening with Sister Gloria. Sister, thank you very much. We will be out here again tomorrow with Mr. Soul, where we will have to have some wonderful things.
And I appreciate all your politics on here. You see all it in there. I'm not asking you whether you're AFL or immigration.
He calling me medicine man.
No, I say you're a postcard, the message chicken medicine man.
I will catch you tomorrow. Don't worry. All right, thank you very much.
This was an informative show. Thanks for having me on. Like I always say, you are a fountain. You are a deep well that we all need to drink out of. All jokes aside, you bring a wealth of knowledge to this platform and to Liberia. So thanks. It's an honor knowing you, my big brother.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Again, folks, Samson to LIBRIA Public Radio. I want to thank all of you that have been watching this evening. Thank you very much. We do these things not because we feel we're the best, or not because we feel we're more knowledgeable than any other person, but we speak from our own experiences and things like that. Some of us have gone deeper than what you can imagine, and it's just a mercy of God that some of us are still here. They were tying in people, some of us, our lives, where we think, what's the point? Why even be here? So you don't just sit down and see somebody say, "Oh, the person you think say you don't know them." So I pray and I hope that all of our brothers and sisters, even here, there are some people here in the United States that are still traumatized. In my own Jida community, there are people that are still talking about the war as though it just happened yesterday. People would tell you, they grabbed my brother right before me and they took him away. I never saw him again. They did that to my father. What do you think that person, even with all the PhD he has, still talk about it? Because there's never been a place for this person to vent whatever it is inside of him, to bring it up. And sometimes you catch yourself. Some of these warlords, they die. And you as a child of God, will say, and you see that now, and you used to do the same thing to people, you kill people, look at you die now. Before you will catch yourself. That is the sign of trauma. You as a child of God, within a split second, will try to greed over somebody's death because the person was so wicked according to you. Where are we going? And the sad thing, these politicians don't even come to tell the people we need to have conversation among ourselves. They want your vote. They don't care how to get it. They want your vote. And when they get your vote, they don't care what you do next. A country that come from civil war. And you say Rwanda did it. They, yeah. But go and read about Rwanda, how they got out of it. Go look at the little stuff that happened in Sierra Leone. People went to jail in Sierra Leone. That alone, it's not so much of satisfaction to those people to say, oh, yeah, the person did it in jail. No. But the fact that the community themselves, I said, no, your crime is so egregious that you're going to have to pay something. We don't want you to die in jail, but at least let the community know that you are not above the law. And it brings some solace to the community. If not satisfaction, because they're never going to see their loved one again, but at least they feel that somebody at least is listening to them. We don't have that in Liberia. We don't. We don't have that. When they're ready to catch roll, somebody's stealing. When they're ready to beat that person to death, human beings throwing mortar pencil, rock at another human being because he was caught stealing. What happened to the law? Where is the system that's supposed to help that person to find him guilty and then be punished by the law? You got community leaders that are not in it for the people. Folks, we have a long way to go. And let us continue to pray for one another, because that's about the only good thing we can do, is to pray for one another. And our God one day will help us all, and that we will come out of it, because we have to. We have to. We cannot go and borrow other country to be our country. Samson told LIBRIA Public Radio, I want to thank all of you again this evening and say good night to all of you. Bye-bye.
L'Américain parle de ta bien de moi au nous en somme on va battre au moins néo on t'a dit ta mou on s'est battu pour moi dit pro tu là le yo ka go so du lo aye awaye battu lo et là-haut abela lo yo mi vito jogba e mi vito nomba ma ti si mo pe yo manager Gigi ouais pe jamais forcé ou si tu connais l'animateur Choco Inoska Yacine de Toyebli l'homme a tout fait pour mi vito ani tchele vieux on doit tiolo batiole moi conseil c'est moi dio Antoine yo bébé, pété ya monton à nous batio. Mon bébé yo, well kene. Adiwe o, tanyo sama de ko ya bayan lo. Ha ha li, asi de ko se tobo. Debe munda we gena, amunda we gena o. Ọba tí ọmọdé wèjẹ́ ògẹ́ndà ọ̀sídẹ́ kọ́sí tó wó dá lọ ẹ̀. Mímú ògẹ́ndà ó wà bẹ́ẹ̀ láwẹ̀ mọ́rò.